I woke up to a child crying in my ear. Not outside my door, not out on the street. Inside my phone at 2:17 in the morning, a terrified whisper trying to keep the world from breaking. "Are you my daddy?" she asked, and I swear I felt the room tilt like somebody had just pulled the floor an inch to the left. My name is Jack, and on paper I'm the guy you call when a server farm melts down or a deal in Tokyo goes sideways. Headlines, valuations, conference panels where someone uses the word visionary, and I want to crawl out of my own skin. None of that helped me at 2:17 a.m. when an 8-year-old voice said, "Mom won't wake up, she's breathing weird." I didn't know what to do, so I called Daddy's number like Mom told me, but you answered. I said what was true. "No, sweetheart. I'm not your dad. My name is Jack." And then I said the part that's going to sound strange if you've never had your life rearranged by a stranger's need. But I want to help. I'm going to help. You ever move before you can think like your body already made the decision and your brain is hustling to catch up? That was me. Jeans on sweater, half backwards, keys, wallet, no shoes, back for shoes, elevator. That always feels slow when it matters the garage air colder than it needs to be. I kept her on speaker as I drove because she asked me to, because silence can be dangerous when you're little and the night is too big. Mom says, "Never open the door to strangers." She told me trying to sound brave, old enough, steady enough. All those things kids try to be when they've been told too much truth too early. "That's a smart rule," I said, turning onto a road I'd only ever used to get somewhere else. "So here's what we'll do. When I knock, I'll say your name, and you ask me 3 questions only the man on the phone would know. And if it's not me, you don't open up. Deal, deal," she sniffed. "Please hurry. Dorchester at that hour doesn't pretend. Peeling paint that doesn't apologize, a security door with more dents than secrets, the number 3B where the 3 is faded, and the B looks new like someone replaced the letter, because replacing the life was too expensive." I knocked soft. "Emma, it's Jack. I'm the man from the phone." "What's my name?" "Emma Taylor." "How old am I?" 8. "What's my mom's name?" "Olivia." The chain slid, the lock clicked, and there she was. Blue eyes swollen with crying, and the kind of bravery kids wear when the grown-ups fail. Past her on a threadbare couch, a woman lay with her mouth, a little open breath, rattling like a bad engine skin flushed hot the wrong way. I touched her forehead and flinched. Fire. "She needs a hospital," I said, reaching for my phone. Emma grabbed my wrist with both hands. Not defiant, just informed. "No hospitals. Mom said we can't last time. The bills made her cry. Please, please." People think money makes choices easy. It doesn't. It just makes excuses harder to find. I put the phone down and picked up the woman instead. She was lighter than she should have been. "Get your mom's purse, her ID, a sweater for you," I said. "We're going to Mass General. I know people there. And if you think that sounds arrogant, maybe it is. But sometimes arrogance is just a faster version of help." The roads were empty, and everything loud anyway. The swoop of each stoplight, the sound of the heater waking up the small hiccuping breath of a kid trying not to cry. "Is she going to die?" Emma asked from the back seat, voice wrapped in absolute quiet. "Not if we can help it," I said, which wasn't a promise, but it was a plan. Hospitals have 2 speeds, molasses for the poor and lightning for the named. And I hate that, but I used what I had. Doors opened. Nurses moved. A doctor with gentle eyes said pneumonia, dehydration, severe. "If you'd waited until morning, we might be having a very different conversation," he told me. And something hard and cold ran a hand down my spine. I sat with the girl in plastic chairs under a humming TV that nobody was watching. She leaned into me like my arm was a wall that wouldn't fall and fell asleep. I didn't move for 3 hours. I was afraid if I did, the whole night would shake loose and slide away. When Olivia woke, she did it like a mother coming back from the edge, straight to her child, with a mix of fear and inventory, then to me with suspicion and gratitude that didn't know where to sit. "Who are you?" she rasped, voice sanded down to the grain. "I'm Jack," I said. "Emma called me by mistake. I came, we brought you here." Her eyes closed like that hurt more than the fever. "We can't afford this." "It's taken care of," I said. "It wasn't yet, but it would be." "I don't accept charity," she said, and something in the way she said it sounded exactly like a sentence I would have said about myself 2 years earlier. "Then consider it a favor to Emma," I told her. "She's very persuasive." She looked at her daughter, at me, at the ceiling, then back at me. "Stay," she whispered, surprising us both. "Just for a little while." People say little while like it's harmless, but that's how a life starts. 5 minutes at a time, stacked up until you can't separate them. I came back the next day with flowers, because hospitals try to teach you your place and flowers put the room on your side. I brought Emma a book about rocks and minerals because she told me between gelatin cups that she loved finding sparkly things on the ground and naming them like they were treasure. The third day, she was doing better, pink the right way, breath smooth, and they told her to rest for 2 weeks. No work, no stress, Their apartment looked different when fear wasn't tilting it. Not sparse, curated by necessity. The couch scrubbed so clean it squeaked, photo frames arranged carefully. Emma's drawings taped in a proud, straight line, the kitchen small but honest, a desk piled with bills that sing a certain sharp note when you shuffle them. "You really don't have to stay," Olivia said, as I took out a pan like I knew what I was doing. "Pancakes," I said, "for dinner, because breakfast at night is an act of rebellion, and also the only thing I can cook without setting off alarms." She laughed and winced and told me laughing was a muscle she hadn't used in a while. I cracked eggs, whisked batter, tried not to look like a rich man cosplaying domestic life. If it were you, what would you have done? Walked away after the emergency, or made a habit out of showing up where you weren't needed yesterday, but might be needed tomorrow? We settled into a rhythm that had nothing to do with office calendars or board meetings. School stories that zigged where reality zagged, rocks handed to me like jewels, dishes done slow because the hot water felt like wealth. After Emma fell asleep on the rug with a book on her chest, we sat at the little table and traded truths. I told her about the kind of house where feelings were graded, pass, fail, and achievement was the only language spoken, how I learned to order my life like a spreadsheet, and then wondered why it felt empty. She told me about working 2 jobs and wearing pride like armor, how hard it is to accept help without losing something in the mirror. "Why are you really here?" she asked. "Not mean, just honest." "I'm still figuring it out," I said, looking at her, looking at myself. Then, life doing what it does, my phone buzzed with a call I couldn't ignore. Tokyo. A partnership wobble that wanted my face in a room across the world. I told her I had to go. "Of course," she said, and suddenly there was a fence in the room, polite, sturdy, 10 feet high. "Thank you for everything." "This isn't goodbye," I told her, sounding exactly like a man in a movie I didn't believe. "It's a trip. I'll be back in a week." Emma came out in socked feet, rubbing her eyes, asked for something with Hello Kitty. "Deal," I said, because some promises you can keep just by trying. On the plane, I learned a new kind of jet lag. Not the time zone kind, the heart kind. We closed deals, moved numbers around, did the dance. At night, I stared at a hotel ceiling and wondered if a girl in Boston had found a shiny rock that day and if her mother was breathing easy. I texted once, "How are you feeling?" And she answered, and the room got less quiet. We started talking more. There's a way truth sneaks out through a screen that it won't through a door. The hospital sent insurance statements the way the ocean sends waves, one after another, small, then bigger, then a set that can drown you. I'd said it was handled. America said not quite. So I handled it. Quietly. Not as a favor to myself, not to buy anything, but because sometimes the right thing is the thing you can do without fanfare. I mailed a box from Tokyo to a Boston apartment with a dollhouse inside that had an elevator, because I liked the idea that a little girl could press a button and go somewhere higher anytime she wanted. "Thank you for the gift and the hospital bill," Olivia texted. "You didn't have to." "Both long overdue," I replied. "How's your breathing better?" she wrote back. Pride is weird, Jack. I know, I told her. It's my first language. 2 days later, an email went out from my company's HR to a short list of candidates. We were expanding support, remote flexible benefits, good pay. Her resume made the list because she had done the work in the dark while others slept. She applied. They interviewed. She got the job. She confronted me on a video call with a look I still can't fully hold. "Did you arrange this?" I asked them to look at you, I said, and to look hard, and I told them to ignore me while they did. "So it's not charity," she said, trying the words out like a new pair of shoes. "It's business," I told her. "And also it's me caring, which I'm not very good at doing quietly, but I'm trying." We built a funny kind of family through screens. Virtual dinners where I set my phone on a hotel water glass so Emma could talk to both of us while I attempted something edible, her telling me about school, while I pretended I knew 4th grade math. Olivia teasing me for getting sauce on a white shirt again. Small domestic chaos traveling 11 time zones on a thin wire. Pattern interrupt. The phone rings late one Boston night. It's her ex, Emma's father, a man named Scott, who always managed to make the room feel like it was tilting. He hadn't called in months, but desperation has a way of remembering your number. He talked fast. Debts, bad people, wrong choices. It was all very, I'm a good guy who had a run of bad luck with a splash of threat to make it persuasive. Then he said my name like he wanted to taste it. "You're cozy with Jack Morgan," he said. The Jack Morgan. Must be nice. He wanted $100,000. Temporary loan, he said, which is the kind of phrase people use when they mean gift. He implied that if she didn't help, he might be forced, forced to share things about her past. A small-time shoplifting charge when she was 19, that she had expunged after serving her time after rebuilding her life one apology at a time. He dangled shame like a hook. She didn't tell me. She tried to handle it. Of course she did. That's who she is. But men like that don't stay on one line. He called me too through a number he shouldn't have had smooth as oil until you poke a hole in it. "Mr. Morgan." He started for Emma's sake. "Maybe we can—" "For Emma's sake," I said, letting my voice get very calm. "You can start returning your child's calls and stop pretending your emergencies are her responsibility." "Watch it," he snapped. "That's my flesh and blood. Then act like it," I said, and I hung up because if I stayed on the line, I would have said something I couldn't take back. I flew home. I didn't text from the car. I went to 3B and knocked softly, and when Olivia opened the door, it looked like she hadn't slept in a year. "I need to tell you something," she said, and she did. She told me about 19, about being broke about 2 months in county, about getting the record expunged, about how her life is divided into before and how the after still gets dragged by men who prefer the before. She told me because she wouldn't give Scott a free ticket to own her story. Do you think that's fair, by the way? That a person has to confess their oldest bruise so a bully doesn't get to point at it later? "Why now?" I asked. Not accusing, just wanting to understand the timing. Because I value you, she said, voice steady. Because you're my boss now too, and because I don't want secrets. The room felt very small. I matched honesty with honesty. I already knew. She went still in a way that scared me, like a deer learning how far headlights reach. You investigated me, she said. I vetted the situation. I answered, which sounded worse out loud than it did in my head. I gather facts to protect what I care about. Are we things you protect or people you trust? She said, and the words were a clean blade. Both, I said, because I couldn't lie, and I'm learning the difference slowly. Her phone rang. She put it on speaker. Scott came through the tiny speaker like a man used to hearing himself amplified. He asked for the money again. I said no. She said no. He tried hardball. You'll regret this. He hung up triumphantly in his own mind. The silence after was big enough to sleep in. Then came the knock. Not triumphant. Official. 2 uniformed officers. Olivia Taylor, the woman asked. We're here about Scott Taylor. He'd been arrested at a poker game where he'd tried cheating his way out of the hole and then tried running his way out of the consequences, assaulting a guard on the way. During processing, he'd tried to drag Olivia into the mess by claiming Emma was with him. A lie designed to light the wrong fire. My lawyers went to work before dawn, not to make it go away for him, to make sure it didn't splash on people who didn't earn it. We clarified custody, called the right social worker, turned phone calls into shields. Olivia watched the sun come up over a street that had seen too many bad mornings and said very quietly, "Thank you." Always, I said, and the word didn't wobble in my mouth the way it sometimes does. In the slow quiet that follows a night like that, you learn who you are. I told her what I wanted, like a man deciding to stand still instead of run. More mornings like this, more pancake dinners where the batter is too lumpy, and nobody cares, more math homework. I don't fully understand, more of her looking at me like I'm a person and not a brand. She told me what scared her. World's wealth, how people talk, how they think they know a story after 2 pictures and a rumor. They'll say I'm after your money, she warned. They'll say I'm having a midlife crisis, I told her. We both laughed, which helped. Let them talk, I added. We know what we are. That's when Emma woke up, hair pointing at the ceiling, eyes bright, because sleep fixes things for kids that caffeine tries to fix for adults. You came back, she said, not a question, and she ran at me like a small missile, and I caught her, and I swear my chest felt like a door being kicked open from the inside. Olivia watched us, and something in her face softened and stayed soft. He came back, she murmured mostly to herself, and I think he might be staying. Stick around, because of what happened next will blow your mind. Not because it's flashy, but because it's ordinary in a way I didn't think I'd ever get to have. 6 months later, a sandcastle fell, the way they all do, grand and doomed and perfect. We were in Cape Cod at a small rented place that felt borrowed and somehow home, and there was a ring on Olivia's finger that would never impress the kind of men who measure worth with carats, and did exactly what it needed to do for us. She earned a promotion at my company on merit, which irritated exactly the people you're thinking of and satisfied everyone who mattered. Scott took a plea, took a program, took supervised visits that looked like accountability, and for the first time in a long time he looked at his daughter like she was a person and not a lever. If you're waiting for the part where everything turns to sunshine and slow motion, high fives, that's not what this is. We fought about small things because small things matter when you've been alone this long. We fought about big things because big things matter when you've got a child watching you try to be your best self. We learn to argue without leaving the room, learn to apologize without accounting for every fault in a spreadsheet. You know what I mean. I still get called to rooms where a dozen people want me to sign something that changes numbers for cities full of strangers. I still do it, but the paper is heavier now, the pen harder to hold, when there's a school project that needs glue, and a math problem that needs patience, and a woman breathing beside me who trusts me with her quiet. That's the twist nobody told me about. That choosing a life is harder and better than choosing a deal, that love is less like a fireworks finale, and more like a porch light you remember to turn on every evening. I'm not going to tell you I rescued them. That's a lie rich men tell so they can keep the movie rights. The truth is messier and better. A little girl rescued me from a penthouse that sounded like an empty church. Her mother rescued me from a life where generosity was a performance and not a practice. Together they ruined my taste for applause. Yeah, that happened. Let's talk about the part that's going to make some of you mad, because I want you to say it out loud in the comments so we can argue properly. Is it okay that I used my name to get her seen faster in the ER? Is it right to use a broken system the way it is while trying to imagine the way it should be? Is that help, or is that complicity, or is it both? Do you think that's fair? And what about paying the bill without telling her first? Is that kindness or control? Is a gift still a gift if it lives under a secret? If it were you, what would you have done? And the background check, the vetting, the due diligence I use like a shield. When does protection turn into surveillance? When does care turn into control? I can justify it the way men in my position always do, but the truth is, I did it because I was scared. Scared to be fooled, to be needed in a way I couldn't meet, to love somebody who could walk away. You ever do the wrong thing for a reason that made sense in your bones, and then have to learn how to do the right thing anyway? There's another question that sits heavy here. Charity or justice? We love it when a big check fixes a bill. It makes a great story. It feels good. But what about a world where a single mom doesn't have to choose between pneumonia and rent in the first place? I want to hear you on this. Do we applaud the rescue so loudly that we never fix the hole in the floor? Here's where I land. That phone rang at 2:17 a.m., and a little girl asked if I was her father. I said no, and then I behaved like I could be, and that made all the difference. Maybe family isn't blood or paperwork. Maybe it's choosing to answer the call you didn't expect, choosing to drive across town, when your calendar says sleep, choosing to stay when staying is complicated and expensive and inconvenient. Maybe it's pancakes for dinner because that's the only thing you can cook. Maybe it's a tiny elevator in a dollhouse that works every time. Maybe it's a kid who now calls when she gets an A and when she doesn't, and both calls matter equally. I told you at the start that the room tilted when she asked me that question. I haven't straightened it back out. I don't want to. The world looks different this way, like the horizon got closer, and the people further off the ground got a little nearer too. I used to measure my days by deals and flights, and the number of unread emails I could smash to 0. Now I measure by school drop-off jokes, by the number of times I manage not to flip a pancake too early, by how many times I can make Olivia laugh before she rolls her eyes and says my name like a warning and a kiss at the same time. Let me leave you with this, because I want you in this with me, not just watching a movie of my life. What do we owe each other at 2 a.m.? What does a man with more resources than sense owe a woman who has been doing impossible math for years? What do we owe our kids when we've messed it up? And what do we owe ourselves when we finally get a chance to do better? Tell me what you would have done. If you think I crossed a line, draw me a better one. If you think I did right, tell me where you would have been braver. Drop your story in the comments. The time a wrong number wasn't wrong at all, the time you were 19 and made a mistake and somebody tried to make you live there forever. The time you answered a call and it changed you. Argue with me. Teach me something I don't know. And if this grabbed you, if you felt your chest go tight when the phone rang in your head, if you wanted to yell at me or hug me or both, hit subscribe, share this with someone who needs a reason to pick up and keep talking. I'll be in there reading, replying, staying, because sometimes the difference between a stranger and a family is just whether you hang up or you say, "I'm coming, keep me on the line," and then you show up.